pink one, and the blue one, and the yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses all went to the university, and they were put in boxes, and they came out all the same. There's a doctor and a lawyer and a business executive, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.
Yes, international movement superstar, original rude boy minds of sound. Big up on my side. Good times when the bassline pumps penetrate your face, man, no waste time. Yes, move your body from your legs to your waistline, pay no mind to no space and time. Gonna play all day until the street lights shine. What you do when it's you and your crew, acting cool, feeling foolish, just you and you, come on. If everybody feeling good like I think they should, make a move, make a rise till it's understood. It's alright now, it's the international, it's all good. If everybody in the spot, keep it loud, make it hot, don't stop y'all till the beat drop. It's alright now, it's all good, here we go. Dance on our time, the party's still young. Move your parts, penetrate your soul. Yourself from the side, positive vibration. From the front to the back, we can jiggle it out. Got the dance on back, don't fail me now. The night's still young, we keep wildin' out. We got the people on the sidelines hollering out. Good vibes, that's right, it's the time to shout. So we gather around to entice the crowd. Pick the energy up and then pass it around. If everybody feeling good like I think they should, make a move, make a rise till it's understood. It's alright now, it's all good. If everybody in the spot, keep it loud, make it hot, don't stop y'all till the beat drop. It's alright now, international, it's all good, here we go. Make your body rock, rock, rock. Make your body rock, rock, rock. Soul sounds, the feel good
make your body rock, rock, rock.
Bob your head and let's follow me.
Make your body rock, rock. Make your body rock, rock, rock. Make your body rock, rock, rock. Come on! If everybody feeling good like I think they should, make a move, make a rise till it's understood. It's alright now, it's all good. If everybody in the spot, keep it loud, make it hot, don't stop y'all till the beat drop. It's alright now, it's all good, here we go. If everybody feeling good like I think they should, make a move, make a rise till it's understood. It's alright now, it's all good. If everybody in the spot, keep it loud, make it hot, don't stop y'all till the beat drop. It's alright now, it's all good, here we go.
special one that doesn't get burned. What the fuck was I thinking? What the fuck was I thinking? What the fuck was I thinking?
Hello, hello, hello. What the fuck was I thinking? That's right. Welcome to Under the Gun, presented by CrushLivePoker.com. We are here each and every Tuesday night. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. That is What the Fuck Was I Thinking from Season 2 of Weeds, which I am enjoying for the second time. It's a really good series. It's kind of, if you've never seen Weeds, think Breaking Bad, but way funnier. It's different, but not really. I mean, Breaking Bad took a lot of, obviously what happened in Weeds. But it's a good show. So shout out to my boy Matt Salzberg for that one. Matt Salzberg, who many of you know is a poker player. Some of you know that he also is a Hollywood writer, was a writer for Weeds. So can't tell you how fucking jealous I am of that, man. That's pretty strong. Anyway, welcome once again Under the Gun, guys. We are here each and every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Pacific time. I've got a couple of cool guests lined up now. When I get guests, there's a good chance it won't be live since we are recording this at 10 p.m., so it might not be convenient for them. That's cool. What's up, Cody Silvers? How are you, my man? All sorts of fun stuff. I am drinking some of my favorite beer out of Michigan, the Two-Hearted Ale, in can form now. Very, very excited. That is just a quality beer. We have many, many funny emails to go through. I kind of went through my junk mail. I got an email from my mom today that made me laugh. And I got an email in my junk mail that made me laugh. So it kind of made me go through a couple. I will share them with you, including the one from my mother. I had a Friendsgiving on Thursday night. I think I mentioned to you guys that my family was down in Pensacola with my nephew. We decided not to fly. Went over to a friend's house. So we had like 3 couples with their kids and our kids, and we all hung out. Had a really good time, actually. There's something about Thanksgiving when you spend it without family. These are people you actually want to be with. Not that I don't love my family, but we've all been there, right? At least I have. Family you kind of have to be with, but when it comes to a Friendsgiving, these are people you choose to be with. The food was fantastic as well. Anyway, after Thanksgiving, Black Friday kind of started, right? I mean, in fact, it started at like 5 p.m. on Thursday night, which is kind of ridiculous. It used to start on Friday. Friday was a big shopping day. And then it got to the point where it was Friday, like midnight. So it was like, now it's like Thursday afternoon, basically. I'm not a huge fan of Black Friday. I have done it once before on the way home from a poker game. The casinos are actually great on Thanksgiving night. Many people don't think that. But on holidays where you have to spend time with family, those nights are often really, really good poker nights because almost everybody is off the next day. And by the time 9 p.m. rolls around, everybody's ready to take a fucking revolver to their head because they spent the last 6 hours with family. So they're like, cool, everybody's sleeping, let me get the fuck out of here and go play poker. So poker is surprisingly good on Thanksgiving night. So a few years ago, I did that on the way home, did the whole Thanksgiving Black Friday thing. But I've never actually kind of done it, at night. This was just like, Thanksgiving, it was like, the next morning, it was Friday morning, and I think I went to Target just to kind of see what it was like. I decided this year, because my wife and I are moving, we actually needed a bunch of shit. So I decided to go to Best Buy. here in Pasadena. The parking lot was overflowing. And Best Buy was the only store open. And it's in kind of like an outdoor mall area, whatever it is. And there's a bunch of stores. But they were the only store open, and the entire parking lot was packed. I parked the car, and I see a line forming around the corner. I have video of this. I will put it out on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Tuck on Sports. So I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, they must be here for some sort of like doorbuster, right? Where it's like, okay, anybody can walk in. But sure enough, I walk up, I ask the guy, I goes, nope, that's just a line to get in. I'm thinking to myself, wow, either the economy is doing well or the consumer is confident. I went in, and I think I told you guys last week, I've kind of always prided myself on being an investor. Bart and I have had this conversation. He just like, index funds. You can't beat it, blah, blah, blah. I like investing in individual stocks. I always have. Doesn't mean I don't invest also in index funds as well, but I have found some success over the past 15, 20 years when I have invested in individual stocks, as my dad has as well. It's in our blood. I asked some of the local guys that work there. I asked some of the Best Buy employees. I say, hey, were you here last year? By the way, I wait in line. I decided, what the hell? My wife was sleeping. My kids were sleeping. I'm going to go home and do nothing. I'm like, you know what? I could have actually gone to the poker room, and I probably should have. But I was like, you know what? I really want to kind of see what this is like. I think I even tweeted out last Thursday night. Social experiment. Let me see what Black Friday is all about. I wanted to see who goes. What kind of people go. And by the way, it was all walks of life. I mean, you had people there that had some money, it was obvious. Some people that probably didn't have that much money, and obviously all sorts in the middle. I asked the Best Buy employees how this Black Friday, Thursday night, compared to last year's, and they said it wasn't close. Got me thinking. I immediately text my buddy, we always talk stocks, and I go, you know what? I don't know if this is unique to Best Buy, or it just speaks volumes about this particular year and the consumer, but I've got a feeling that this is going to be a pretty good Christmas, at least for Best Buy. I didn't have any anecdotal evidence for any other place, but I went to Best Buy and I checked this out, and I was like, wow. Reports also were that online sales were like 18% higher. It was crazy. So I actually bought on Friday morning, I bought some Best Buy stock at 56 and change, and I bought FedEx. FedEx tends to do well when the economy is doing well. Now, you might argue that we're somewhat late in the cycle, but based on what I'm seeing, there's still some room to run. Now, the stock market has been up a ton as of late, so it could correct at any moment. But I have never been one to believe in trying to time the market. I think that's quite difficult. I think next to impossible. I think you look for good opportunities. You try to pick a good entry spot. Sometimes you can average down if the stock goes down a little bit. If you still believe in the absolute, the reasons you bought it. If those reasons still exist, and the stock is down a little bit, cool. You just got to bargain, buy more, right? So I ended up buying some Best Buy and FedEx. They're both up marginally a little bit. Good news about this, by the way. It's November 28th. I'm going to let you guys in on something. They both go ex-dividend in early December. What that means is these stocks yield a dividend. I think Best Buy is 2.5%. FedEx is like 3%, somewhere in that neighborhood. And they generally pay a dividend. It's like interest, but a lot better than a bank interest would ever be. And you can get this. And they usually generally do it in quarters. So both of these stocks go ex-dividend in early December. You need to own the stock on the ex-dividend date before that goes ex-dividend to get the dividend for that particular quarter. So my kind of play here was, okay, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to let it go ex-dividend in early December, see how it plays out. I might write some covered calls against it. If it goes up to 60 or 61, and I can kind of get an easy 8, 9, 10% out of it, and then we'll see where it plays. I don't think this is not Bitcoin. This is not Apple. Best Buy is not going from 56 to 160. That's not the story. But I do think they have figured a lot of shit out. I actually sold this stock short, Best Buy, a few years ago and did well because I just thought they were broken. I thought it was a broken company. I thought Amazon was eating its lunch. It was. And just like Circuit City and Radio Shack were going bankrupt, I thought Best Buy was going to follow that same thing. But they figured it out. The way they treat their customers, the place was mobbed, yet I got in and out. Like once I bought the stuff I wanted to buy, I got out pretty quick. By the way, I bought a Echo B4. I bought a smart thermostat. Bought what else did I buy? Bought my wife a Neato BotVac. It's kind of a robot vacuum thing. It just does it by itself. Anyway, I went on CNET, and apparently it was the highest rated one and best review, so I bought that for her. And, yeah, all good stuff, man. But got in and out. I didn't have to wait on a long line. So, I mean, the experience was actually cool. And while I know a lot of people like to buy shit online, there were a lot of people at Best Buy. Okay? So, anyway, bought those two stocks. I will leave it at that. I came to a conclusion on Sunday. Curious if you guys share my take. Some of you might be thinking that this is something you've known for a long time. I don't know. Maybe it is. But I can tell you that I'm not sure. This has nothing to do with kneeling the flag and all that bullshit like Trump has been talking about with Roger Goodell. But I will tell you something. I'm not entirely sure I like football that much. I think the product is somewhat boring. Now, if it's an amazing game with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and Tom Brady at quarterback, or and you're watching Julio Jones or Antonio Brown run up and down the field, or I can get behind that. But there are so many inept offenses in the NFL and so many penalties and instant replay. The game is so fucking slow that in years past, when my fantasy teams were relevant, and this has been my worst year in fantasy in as far as I can remember. I'm in like 11 leagues, and I think I'm going to make the playoffs in 4 of them. It has been an awful year. I had a lot of Dalvin Cook. He was broken. I had a lot of Mike Evans. He's had a really bad year. And the list just goes on. In the couple of leagues where I had Zeke, he's now suspended. I had Odell Beckham in a few leagues. He was broken. So just nothing went my way. And, hey, I got to hit the books. I still think it's great value. I was actually having this conversation with somebody last night while I was playing poker. Played poker last night here in LA for the first time in a while. I'm a little rusty, I'm not going to lie. But it was good to get back on the horse. Anyway, so we were talking fantasy football, and we were comparing that to DraftKings and Draft Day and all these things. And I still maintain that the value is in the season-long leagues. There's no rake. And in traditional leagues that are 12-team, if you have 1 or 2 people that are dead money, you're printing money. If you know what you're doing. If you're not the guy who's dead money, obviously. And I have very rarely been in a league where there hasn't been at least 3 or 4 owners that had no clue. You're talking about a quarter of the league at least has no clue. Imagine playing in a poker tournament like that and there's no rake. You're printing money. Anyway, this year was not my year. So it was kind of weird. So I wake up on Sunday morning like I always do. And I see my kid and we're playing and having a good time. Football's on in the background. And there's a game on and I got to tell you. Like watching one game, like not Red Zone, was so boring. But even Red Zone, when I wasn't really interested in fantasy, wasn't that interesting to me. So I realized, I was like, man, if I'm not betting on the games, or if I don't have a fantasy football interest in the game, and my Jets suck like they always do, I'm wearing a Jets hat, I don't give a fuck. The product just isn't that good. And I wonder the same thing if you guys think the same thing. I'm just wondering, if you weren't betting on the game or playing fantasy football, would you watch football? Because I will say, personally, from just a pure enjoyment standpoint, I much prefer like hockey. Some of you probably say I prefer basketball. But football is really slow. And the penalties, it's like ticky-tacky calls and holding and like you bring it back. And it just slows the fucking game down so much that it's just not... I mean, I think in actual play, what are these guys actually playing? Like 12 minutes of actual football? And I can't stand... Listen, I understand. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But, the defense is just, they touch a quarterback and they get a penalty for that. And even with all the rules that are 100% designed to help offenses, the NFL knows offense sells, right? All the rules they have are designed to make it easier for quarterbacks and easier for offenses to score points. Yet, we still have, I can't remember, and it's obviously courtesy of injuries and stuff. I mean, Andrew Luck's out, Aaron Rodgers is out. We have a bunch of injuries like that, but I cannot remember a time where we had so many inept offenses in the NFL. Usually there's like 2 or 3 really bad offenses. This year there's like, 7, 8? I mean, it's almost unwatchable. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I actually, I looked at my kid at I made breakfast, and I looked at my kid at 11 in the morning, and I was like, hey, you want to have a dude day? And my wife was so surprised. Molly looked at me. She goes, you're not watching football? And I go, I don't really give a fuck. So I took my kid out. We went ice skating. Got a haircut. Went to the playground. Got some ice cream. Later on, there's a pretty cool place in Pasadena called the Doghouse, which is it's a brewery / they've got sausages and kielbasa and brats. So we went there. Had a couple of hot dogs. I had a beer. And the football game was on. Now, if it's on in the background, I'll kind of watch, but I didn't really care. I was hanging out with my kid. So I don't know. Maybe maybe this is just I'm getting older and, my priorities are changing. I don't know. I'm sure if I had money in the game, I'd be more interested, but I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't think it was that good. I got a tip this weekend on a UFC fight between 2 women in China. Didn't work out for me. Now, I will say that the particular person who gave me the tip is usually absolutely solid. So I do not begrudge that player. And by the way, if you ever get a tip from somebody that you think's a legit source, and you decide to bet on their tip and you lose, don't go back and whine. I actually told my buddy about the tip, and I told 2 friends, one of which would never come back and whine because he does this. And the other one, like a whiny little bitch, I swear to God. He just I can't believe this. This was the worst tip ever. Okay, buddy. It's you know what? That's the last tip I'm ever giving you. Okay? Derek Cole says, did you hear the Bellagio poker room got robbed today? I did. That's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy for sure, man. I don't know any details about it, but that is pretty insane. From what I heard, though, it was poker as usual, just keep playing. In other poker-related news, Poker After Dark is going on. One of my good friends and somebody you guys might be familiar with, Barry Woods, was playing. Apparently, it was Moon Magic Weeks. They're playing 25, 50, 100. Danielle Moon. I think Justin Young was in the game. A few others, and Barry Woods as well. So that should be fun. I'm going to watch that at some point. I did not watch it live today. Derek Cole says, just buy Bitcoin in the next dip. It's almost at 11K. What is Bitcoin at right now? Fucking insane, I swear to God. The insanity is just ridiculous. Bitcoin is currently at, I think even people that believe in Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin is now at $10,535. It is blasted through the 10K mark. And apparently a bunch of new accounts opened up over the Thanksgiving weekend, over the holiday weekend. So that's a flood of new money that basically pushed it up. In the last week, guys, okay, it is up 2,700, which is 35%. I mean, I think even the biggest believer in cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin particularly, has to be, wait, you know what? Maybe this is too fast. I remember, it's funny, I bought Qualcomm stock many, many years ago. And it was I think I said, it's my best purchase I ever made in terms of investing. And some analyst came out and said, this is an $800 stock. And the stock went up like, it just went like skyrocketed. It went up like 24% in one day. It was just like, and I remember I was watching CNBC. It was just on in the background, and I'm playing poker with my buddies actually, and they're just like, they're envious because they're like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, as I'm just making money during the day as it goes up. And somebody on CNBC kind of just laughed at it and said, well, so-and-so from, so-and-so firm came out and with a, strong buy and an $800 price target on the stock. I don't think he was suggesting it was going to go to 800 today. And that's kind of how I feel like with Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, Qualcomm was a great story, but even that was like too fast, too quick, too fast right now. I just wonder with Bitcoin, it's like, okay. I mean, at this rate, it's going to be at 40,000 in like 4 days. And I think even the biggest believer in Bitcoin probably, thinks maybe it goes too fast. Now, if you're in it for the long term, who gives a shit about the volatility, right? I mean, it goes up to 13,000, goes back down to 6, goes up to 15, goes down to 9, But if you are a believer in Bitcoin for the long term, you don't care because the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride is all there. And that's obviously part of, when you're investing in stocks or you're investing in Bitcoin or really anything, you have to have the stomach for the volatility, especially when you're in something as volatile as this. Anyway, congratulations to all of you who do own Bitcoin. Obviously, other cryptos going up as well. Ethereum up to 470. So it's up $105 in the last week. It was at 365, up 105. So another one that's up, 30% in a week. That's just ridiculous numbers. For those of you who don't invest and are just looking at Bitcoin, I mean, if you can make 10% in a year, that's good. I have no doubt you guys are sitting at home laughing at me like, Bitcoin, 10%, ha, 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 sucker. Listen, you guys can own Bitcoin. It's cool. I'm not whining. Great. I'm really happy for you. It's awesome. Give me 10% a year. Give me 10% of the year for the next 30 years. I'm good. But hey, congratulations to all you guys. What else is going on? Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, it's the Tennessee football team. Yeah, no, I'm not interested in the coaching the team. Thanks, though. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think the Tennessee football team is asking everybody and their mother to coach the football team. Apparently, nobody wants the job. I got some emails that I thought were quite funny. I got an email from my mom today. My mom is 75 now. This is the email. Verbatim. Package should have arrived today from Amazon. Latest tomorrow. It was shipped incorrectly to Phineas. It's my laxative. I get it from you guys in March. I read that in the middle of the day and just laughed out loud. We didn't get it in the mail yet, but I'm looking forward to a package that's mailed to my son, my 4-year-old son, that apparently has laxatives in there that are intended for my 75-year-old mom. Cheers to you and your bowel movements, mother. Pardon me. It's all good, right? All good. So, man, in terms of other fun emails I got, I want to just throw a couple at you. I thought they were kind of funny. So let's see. I got a, let's see here. Ooh, this one's good. I got an email from the FBI office. I, Jackson Josh, was among the FBI agents sent to Africa by the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Christopher A. Wray, to carry out an extensive investigation on some suspicious transactions originating from there following series of complaints from the Internet Crime Complaint Center. You guys can check that out because that exists for sure. During our investigation, we discovered a sum total of $2.5 million US in your name as its beneficiary. Awesome. Good time to be David Tuckman, right? However, the office in charge of the fund are very corrupt and unwilling to release your fund to you. As a result of that, we've taken full responsibility of the fund, and we will ensure it delivered safely to you. You are only required to pay for their expenses, express delivery charge of $340, which you can request a payment method convenient for you. And then they asked me for my full name, my address, my cell phone. It's Josh Jackson, 202-389-9356. Can you guys call that number for me? 202-389-9356. Ask for Josh Jackson. See if this is legit, because $2.5 million could be coming to me. This one's awesome. I got a notice from Melania Trump. That's right. The First Lady sent me an email. Okay? Now, I thought for a second she might be like, hey, we know you're not pro-Trump. We're going to come get you. No. Really nice. So I have misspoken about the entire Trump family. First notice from Melania Trump, and the email is melaniatrump11@gmail.com, so it's obviously real. I am Mrs. Melania Trump, and I am written to inform you about your bank check draft brought by United Embassy from the government of Benin Republic to the White House, Washington, D.C., as opposed to a different White House, just in case I got confused. Has been mandated to be delivered to your home address, being 15th of Wednesday, 2017. No month. It's just the 15th of the Wednesday. So I had to do some research and find out which month is the 15th. Maybe it's like a little game, right? Which month is the 15th? November 15th was a Wednesday. Wow. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. Oh, my check is containing the sum of $25 million US. Here is my email, or send me an SMS. But I prefer SMS because I'm always busy in the White House and I can't be able to pick calls all the time. I'll be waiting to hear from you immediately. Thanks and God bless you. Thanks and be blessed. From Mrs. Melania Trump. She asked me for my full name, my residential address, mobile number, fax number, sex. It's weird because you'd think maybe she just wants me to fill it out. I mean, it's formality, right? It's that kind of stuff. Like, she knows who I am, but she wants to fill it out. But her SMS, by the way, if you guys want to contact Melania Trump, it's 201-215-5589. Once again, that's 201-215-5589. Her email, again, is melaniatrump11. She prefers, once again, SMS because she's busy. She can't always get the call. So don't call her up. She's busy in the White House. So that was that one. So I thought those were some pretty cool emails. I got another one. I just got to find it here. Let me see what I can find it here. Oh, this one's cool. Investigations concluded. Your fund is released. That one was good. Oh, and this one is from Miss Emily Jackson. Get back to me. My dear beneficiary, I am sure this mail would be coming to you as a surprise since we have never met before. And you would also be asking why I have decided to choose you amongst the numerous internet users in the world. Precisely, I cannot say why I have chosen you. But do not be worried, for I saw your profile on the internet. Cool. Which has made me accomplish my request. This is really awesome here. Apparently, this is Mother Emily Jackman, 67 years old woman, the wife of late Sir Jackman, who died in a plane crash on the Monday, the 7th of September in 1998. They were flying from New York to Geneva, and her husband died. That's really sad. I'm sorry, Mrs. Emily Jackman. Anyway, apparently there's some money. I am supposed to get $5.8 million, but apparently they think I'm dead. Apparently they think that I died in a plane crash. So if I'm still alive, I should contact them and let them know I'm still alive so I can get my $5.8 million. By the way, even if I get all this money, guys, I'm still going to do this podcast, okay? I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love it. So don't worry. Some of you are probably thinking, we weren't worried, Tuck. Whatever. I get it. It's all good. Daylan says, wait, is that actually Melania Trump's number? Yeah, of course it is, obviously. Duh. These are all obviously legit. You know? It's pretty cool. Yeah, this last one, by the way, I only have to pay $175 delivery, and I get all this. So, I mean, what? Maybe I spend $600-$700. I give out my personal information, and I make millions. So, here's to that. I'm going to be drinking a lot of this two-hearted ale if I can make all this money. I will still play poker, though. I don't even think my life would change much. No, I don't think it would. I really don't. Anyway, that was that. By the way, guys, if you guys want to call in, you can. If you guys want to talk about some fun stuff, you can call in. The number is 323-825-5134. Once again, 323-825-5134. What's up, Pappy? What's up, Dylan? What's up, Hector? How are you guys, man? Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't join us live, we are here each and every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to have some pre-recorded interviews and conversations that I will insert in the podcast later on. But if you ever want to call in, you ever want to join us live, I am here. Michael Litton says, why do I recognize your voice? What show do you commentate at? I actually do the dog shows. Yeah, that's probably why. Do you like dog shows? It's me. Look at the golden retriever. He's going to win best in show. It's the golden retriever. It's never the fucking golden retriever. The golden retriever never wins. It's fucking bullshit. The best dog, and he never wins. Absolute crap. By the way, new development at my house, and it's so ridiculously cute. My 4-year-old kid and my 1-year-old golden retriever have become like best buds. Every day, my 4-year-old comes home from pre-K, and he and the golden are like playing with each other and hanging out. It's really, really cool. Hey, you are under the gun. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Robert in Fullerton.
Hey, Robert in Fullerton. How are you, my man?
Pretty good. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about, you just got back from doing the World Series of Europe.
Yeah.
And wanted to ask you a few questions about that. I watched a couple of the streams, late at night. Was obviously very disappointed with Maria not winning the main event, unfortunately.
Right.
But that's the way it goes. But I was going to ask you, though, what do you think about, poker streams? It seems like there is this sort of dichotomy between trying to attract the 2+2 crowd, but then also being able to attract casuals to get a higher level audience. In places like, like Live at the Bike, the Bellagio streaming those. Do you think that's a real issue right now with them? And, what do you think about that?
I think this is probably one of my strengths in terms of understanding the audience. I have many, many weaknesses. I'm always open to constructive criticism. I certainly know I'm not perfect, guys. But one of the things that I feel like I'm actually pretty good at over the last 7 years covering the World Series of Poker is getting a feel for who our audience is. Because I think what you ask is a really good question, Robert. Because first and foremost, these streams should be entertaining. It's a show, right? So we need to my job is to, depending on what the show is about, my job is to keep the train on the tracks and at its core, try to entertain our audience. Now, I think with live streams, it can be tricky because you have to understand the audience you're attracting. I think sometimes we're attracting a very poker-savvy, cult-like audience that really, really wants to work on their game. And in situations
Absolutely.
You're right, and in situations like that, you want to, it's okay, I think, to go into more analysis. Now, I don't think these videos should be training videos per se, but I do think it's okay to, not unlike in a football game where I might ask Ron Jaworski to explain an intricate defense and how to attack it during an NFL show. You just have to understand who your audience is on different things, So I think there are certain live streams that should really focus on the analysis and bring in guests that are capable of doing it. And then there are other ones where you know that your audience is going to be a little bit more casual, and you kind of stay away from the analysis, and you just let the game go. And then depending on who's at the table and how much table talk there is, you fill in as you need. The general rule of thumb in broadcasting, the more exciting the event is, or the, whatever's happening, the quieter you can be. For me, I feel like a lot of my job is just keeping the train on the tracks and adjusting accordingly. I'll give you two examples, by the way. So you just watched the World Series of Poker Europe. Now, I don't know if you watched the one drop, which was the one before the main event, but that was obviously a very, very high level of poker. Now, I knew because of that, I knew we'd be bringing in some amateurs that were really excited about the stakes and the level of it, but at the same time, we're watching some of the best players in the world. So I really wanted to kind of pick the pro that was alongside me. I wanted to pick their brain. And I think for a while I had Jack Sinclair in there. I had other people in there as well. So I want to pick their brain, If we're covering Deuce to 7 single draw, no limit during the summer at the World Series of Poker in Vegas, I know that audience is probably going to be a little bit more hardcore. So I really want to pick Billy Baxter's brain on how to play this game and get into it a little bit.
Yeah, that would be the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Vegas. Right when I got back, I came to Vegas, and I commentated with Jeff Gross on Twitch, and it was on runitup.tv, and it was some of the biggest personalities on Twitch got together for a charity event. Now, that's a completely different audience. We estimated that at least 30 to 35% of our audience had never played poker before. They were just fans of the streamers, People that were streaming Hearthstone or, Call of Duty or whatever game they might have been streaming. These were just their fans. So Jeff and I basically stayed completely away from analysis, and we just had fun with it. So
yeah,
I hope that helps.
Your audience.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think. Go ahead.
The other thing I was going to ask you about too was the what do you see as like sort of the differences and the things that are the same about World Series events in, say, Europe versus America?
What's different?
What's different and alike? Compare and contrast.
Well, it's different in many ways because you're going to attract a much different crowd. The Vegas World Series is the creme de la creme. You just don't get those kind of numbers anywhere in the world, no matter what. I think in this year in particular, they were trying to attract more people, so they really kind of stayed away from mixed games. I think that was a mistake. I think the World Series of Poker has to have some mixed games in there because I think that's part of what it is. So that was a big part of it. I think it's difficult to attract a lot of players to some obscure locations. So, I mean, obviously the crowd size is an enormous difference. You know what I mean? I think as a result,
so it doesn't feel like a convention center event there.
No, and obviously, and each and every place we go, I've now been to a few different World Series of Poker Europe. I've been to the one in Cannes. I've been to the one in Agen-les-Bains, just outside Paris. And I have been to Berlin. I wasn't there. I did it remotely from my studio. And now I was in Rosvedov. So each and every place is different unto itself. You know, what's there, what's going on. Is it a touristy spot? Do amateurs travel there or not? You know, in terms of, you know, the similarities, you're still playing for a World Series of Poker bracelet. And regardless of what some people may think about it, that name still holds a huge amount of clout in the poker world. It's the World Series of Poker. It's the biggest event in the world. And people still want to win a bracelet. It's still a big deal. You know, I mean, the one drop, we got 138 entries. Or 132, sorry. 132 players put up $100,000. You know, the main event had a really nice field. So, and some huge names still. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one last thing. I was going to ask you, too, about I noticed that this year, I didn't notice it years before, and I usually go and play maybe 3 or 4 World Series events, not real big. But I noticed this year that a lot of the final tables were not held at like the feature table, you know, in the big room.
Right.
And I noticed that a lot of people did comment on that they thought that was sort of, you know, they were kind of disappointed about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was it's interesting. You know, I think anytime you get something for free, and then somebody tries to go, okay, you're not going to get it for free anymore. You got to pay for it. I think that throws anybody for a loop. Even if it's worth the money, it's going to throw people for a loop. And I was among the masses that were skeptical about PokerGo, and I was like, come on, you're not going to make... But I got to hand it to, you know, Sam and Carrie Katz and everybody else who runs PokerGo and, you know, Poker Productions, which is over there. They do a good job, you know. Full disclosure, I do some work for them, but I'm not an employee of them at all. I think, you know, they are putting out some really cool stuff, whether it's Poker Masters or Poker After Dark or the WPT final tables or the World Series of Poker final tables. I think they do a really good job. I think it's a learning process, and I think they learned a lot from last summer, and I think they'll probably make some adjustments going forward because I think in years past, you know, we got spoiled. We got 33, 34 events, and they were all free. And there was great production value there, despite me doing commentary. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, the guys who... it's the same guys who were doing it.
Yeah, it really is.
It was great production value, so people got spoiled. It was like, wow, this should be free. So, you know, I think in poker, that's a really difficult business model. You know, and I think we're all trying to figure out, how do we make this work? Because this is not... I mean, I don't know if anybody knows, but what Poker Productions and PokerGo did this summer with the World Series of Poker, and now they're doing a Poker After Dark, this is not cheap. That production costs a lot of money. So they're trying to figure out ways to, you know, pay for it, obviously.
Right,
and
you got to be able to monetize it.
They're trying. You're right. They're just trying to figure out a way. How do I make this business work? You know, nobody, because otherwise, right. I mean, nobody wants to spend millions and millions of dollars and not make money. So they're trying to figure out, how do I make this work? You know, can I give it away for free? Can we get enough viewers to sell the advertising? And I don't think they thought they could. I mean, otherwise they probably would have gone down that route. Now, I know Carrie Katz came out and said that the 50K Players Championship will never not be streamed again. I think they acknowledged that that was probably a mistake this year. But I want to give them a little bit of, you know, the benefit of the doubt. This was the first year they did it. They tried to go after some marquee events. They figured that their audience would prefer Hold'em. And I will tell you that while a lot of people tell me they love the mixed games from the World Series of Poker, and I know Pappy just said, you know, I would love to hear Grapes commentate some Raz. That dude is a Raz beast. The year before last, we covered so many mixed games. And I had, I had Ray D and Grapes, and I had all these like amazing mixed game players in the booth covering all these 10K mixed final tables. And it was a lot of fun, but I can tell you that our numbers, and I know the numbers, our numbers are worse for mixed games than they are for Hold'em. More people watch Hold'em than they do mixed games. So I think Poker Go took that and kind of said, okay, well, we can pick and choose which events we want to do. It costs a lot of money to broadcast these, and they did more Hold'em events. I think next year, my guess would be, and I'm not privy to this information yet. My guess would be that next year there'll be more mixed games involved, and probably a few more streams.
That's good.
I have spoken to a few other people.
More is better.
Yeah, and I've spoken to a few other people. I can't talk about it as of yet because nothing's been solidified. But I've talked to a few people that are going to do their best to make sure that more and more World Series of Poker streams are shown next summer. So hopefully that is the case. I mean, it's all cool.
Yeah. So I assume then the World Series of Poker, when they were just putting it on their website, was not making very much money off of it.
No. That was they weren't making any money on that. I know how much advertisers pay for it because Crush Live Poker, which of course is our sponsor here, was a sponsor of that live stream. And being part of Crush Live Poker, I know. So I know what advertisers paid for that. And even though, we were getting 5 figures to watch the shows, we had good numbers. I mean, I think we had one summer we had over 2 million views, from different, across the entire summer. The advertising money just didn't pay for it. Mm-hmm. I think the World Series of Poker, their goal was basically just to try to break even. And they figured, they knew that the fans of the World Series of Poker wanted to see it. The World Series of Poker being the biggest name in poker, I think Ty Stewart and Jack Effel and Seth Polanski, they realized we need to stream this. It has to be streamed. And, we'll just take a loss. But they definitely lost money on it. They did not make money on the stream at all. So that was one of the reasons why they had to go a different route.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like for me, who's kind of a poker junkie,
right?
It's fine. It's well worth the $100 a year, but I just don't know how many casuals will think that way.
Yeah, and that, I think that's part of it too. Our people now they did give away. I know with the Aria, I know Poker Go let you watch some of it for free, and then they would take some away. And maybe that's a model they do going forward. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not privy to what they're doing. But obviously, attracting the casual viewer is huge. I know DirecTV, like with their NFL package, they might give away week 1. I know HBO will give you away free weekend. So I assume Poker Go is going to do the same thing to try to attract casual viewers.
Yeah, you got to tease them a little bit.
Yeah,
to get them in there.
Right, exactly. And once you're hooked, then you're not going anywhere. Then you're like, what's $9 a month? Big deal.
Yeah, I think I bought it when the Super Bowl or the
Super High Roller
tournament around the Super. Yeah.
Yeah, the Super High Roller went on. Yeah, no, and that was a great tournament. I mean, they brought in. Ali Najad is there, Nick Schulman's there, and they brought in Lon McCarron, and we got 7 days of World Series of Poker main event coverage. I mean, the coverage has been fantastic. And for a lot of people who complained about, we only got 14 events last year at the World Series, I understand why you're upset. Keep in mind, though, you got 6 or 7 days of main event coverage. So we had less days of streaming, but not that many less. I think there were 21 days of streaming last summer, while in most summers we might get 30 or 31. But, yeah, I mean, I think attracting the casual viewer is huge. How do we bring that person in? And frankly, I think, Jason Somerville and RunItUp.tv, I think they are going a long way. I mean, last week, like I said, 2 weeks ago when I was in Vegas, we had 38. We broke the record on Twitch. The most concurrent viewers watching poker on Twitch at any point. We had just under 38,000 people watching it, a lot of whom were not poker fans. So if just 5% of the guys who are not poker fans were like, hey, this is a cool game. What's this? And maybe they start watching Jason. Or maybe they start watching... maybe they start watching
Somerville's
Lex
pretty
Valdez.
fantastic, too.
Yeah, and maybe they start watching Lex
Twitch
Valdez.
channel's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and we
Remember
bring those fans in.
Jason Mercier play a $100,000 tournament on his stream.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I think Jason has gone the right way in terms of figuring out a way to attract non-poker fans, not traditional poker fans. And he's done himself. He's obviously built a great brand around it. I mentioned this last week that I will at some point go to run it up, whether it's the next one or the one after. I promise, Jason, and I will definitely make an appearance at some point. Anyway, man, Robert, thanks so much for the call. Anything else?
Yep, have a good one.
You too, buddy. Appreciate the call, Robert. That was a good one. Vincent Trin says, hey, Tuck, wanted to get your thoughts on playing in a good game but bad dealers. It depends. I mean, how bad is the dealer that you're asking me this? Generally, dealers get a push every like 40 minutes. So if the dealer is so bad that he is tilting you or forcing you not to focus on your game, then don't play while the dealer is dealing. You know what I mean? My suggestion would be to get mentally tough and get over it. There are situations, though. I mean, it's not recently. The dealers at the World Series of Poker have gotten a lot better. In years past, though, let's say 10, 12 years ago, there were times where if you were playing like a Stud 8 tournament, or let's say you were playing a Stud 8 tournament at the Bike or Commerce, and the dealers don't normally deal that, it can be like so tilting. Because first of all, it's already a split pot game that's going slowly. And now the dealer doesn't really know what you're doing. It goes even slower. You get like 10 hands in an hour. It's just like, oh my God. It can make it very, very difficult. I think in a cash game, if you're on a good game, the dealer should never be that bad. If one dealer is really, really horrendous, you should probably go tell the floor man. I mean, don't be an ass about it, but you should probably tell the floor man that this dealer is not very good. Now, if it's every dealer, that seems kind of odd. You might just be a little nitpicky. I don't know. The Seaball Boy says, hey, Tuck, not sure if I should get a call in, but I'll just ask here. I graduated in 2 weeks with a degree in sports business. Congratulations, my man. How should I try to get a job in the poker world? Well, the Seaball, I will tell you that every summer at the World Series of Poker, they have interns that work during the series, so you can get some really great experience that way. If you're specific about being in the poker world, I think that's one way to do it. I think it's actually a great way to do it. And the other way is just, apply for jobs. You know? Depends on what you want to do in the poker world. You know, do you want to be a floor man? Do you want to be a poker room manager? Do you want to be a tournament director? It's tough to know, depending on what you want to do. I've had Sean McCormick on our show. He's a great guy. I bet you if you send him a tweet, he's super cool, Sean McCormick. By the way, my thoughts and prayers go to Sean McCormick and his lovely wife, Shannon. They are dealing with a very, very sick furry family member. And for somebody who has many pets and loves my dogs and loves my cat so much, I know how heartbreaking that can be. So, man, my love to you, Sean and Shannon. Anyway, send him a tweet. Don't do it right now because, like I said, he's dealing with some shit. But send him a tweet. Sean would be great. It really depends on what you want to do. You know? But I do think you can get an internship each summer at the World Series of Poker. That's a good start. You know, you meet a lot of people that way. You can network that way. And you take it from there. So... anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining us here. We are Under the Gun, presented by CrushLivePoker.com. If you want to get 1 month free, you can, using the code DTA411. That is good till the end of November. And then for the month of December, if you want to get 1 month free at CrushLivePoker.com, use the code DTA412. It makes a great Christmas gift. You already know, hey, listen, if your dad is playing poker and he sucks, We are the exact perfect site for your dad, okay? We will turn losing players into break-even players. We turn breaking-even players into winning players. We will help you maximize your profits at the table. And if you're just playing poker for fun, I'm going to tell you right now, it's more fun to win. This coming from a guy who got absolutely murdered last night. I haven't played a ton of poker as of late. I think a lot of you I told you that. Between selling my house and buying my house and traveling so much, I have not had a lot of poker in. I played a little bit in Rosvadov. I played a little bit in London when I was there. I didn't get a chance to play in Brazil. And I played last night in a home game here in LA, my first session in LA in like 2 months, 2.5 months. Anyway, I'm not sure if I ran bad and played bad, or just ran bad, or just played bad. I didn't just play bad. I definitely ran bad. But I'm curious either way. Anyway, I've got a couple of hands from last night that I will go through if you guys are interested in it. Armin Pishvai says, "Hey, Tuck, I'm a Canadian professional poker player, and I want to stay 6 months next year in California playing poker." Can you stay 6 months? I don't know immigration rules. I think you can only stay 3 months. Maybe it's different for Canadians. I don't know. Armin says, "Where do you suggest that I stay so I have more places and better places to play?" You might want to stay. I mean, to me, if you're only coming out to LA for like 6 months, man, get something on the west side, right? I mean, be near the beach. Then you've got Hollywood Park. You've got Hustler. The bike's not that far. But Hollywood Park and Hustler are right there. If you want to take the trek to Commerce, it's not bad. And you got the beach, man. I mean, I think it's kind of a no-brainer to stay. Like, if you're only going to be here for a little bit, Armin says, "What about San Diego?" I mean, I suppose, but if you're coming here specifically to play poker, I would stay on the west side, you know, of LA, that is. I don't know what your budget is. You know, Santa Monica can be pretty expensive, but if you stay somewhere out there, I mean, Marina Del Rey is kind of cool. Again, it's not cheap because you're out by the water, but I think it would be. I think it would be pretty sweet. Like, to me, it's just one of those things where if you're going to actually bite the bullet and live in California and Los Angeles, that'd be pretty sweet. Now, I mean, if you're not looking, if you're looking for just California, I think Northern California. I think Northern California is not bad either. You've got Bay 101, Matrix, and a few other casinos up in the Bay Area. I don't know specifically where you want to live. I'm not one to talk about the Bay Area. I don't live up there, but I do love Northern California. They've got some great rooms up there as well. But if you're talking about LA personally, I go beach. You know, bite the bullet, get a cool little studio or a 1-bedroom in like Santa Monica or something like that, and you'll have a bevy of poker rooms to choose from. Mike says, "Bring a big roll." Good news. Hector, what's up, my man? How are you, buddy? Vincent says, "Yeah, the dealer was tilting me. He was focusing on having a conversation with this one player and kept messing up the pot, skipping action, etc." You know, I don't think it's completely out of line. Bart makes fun of me for doing this sometimes, but I don't think it's completely out of line for you to say, you know, get dealers' names so you don't call him, "Hey, dealer." Let's say his name is John. Say, "John, can you please pay attention to the game more?" And he might get a little bit butthurt, but that's okay. He's not doing his job the way he should. So I think you're completely in your right to say something. And in fact, I'd rather say something to him before I go to the floor man. Like, why rat out a guy and go to the floor man and be like, "Hey, this dealer sucks. He's just da-da-da-da." Now, if you say to John, be like, "Hey, John, can you pay attention to the game a little bit more?" And he gives you an attitude or something like that, then hey, yeah. I have no problem with that. And in fact, if I owned a casino, if I owned a card room, I would hope customers would say that to me. I want to know that. I mean, I am firmly against dealer abuse. And in fact, when I see dealer abuse, I say something. But I'm also, firmly against, bad dealers. If somebody is not a good dealer or is not paying attention, I have no problem reminding them that, hey, listen, sir, we're playing for real money here. Can you please pay attention? There's nothing wrong with that. Cheers, guys. Man, I tell you, Two Hearted Ale, if you haven't tried this beer, it is delicious. It's an American IPA out of Michigan, and it is a solid, solid beer. Okay, so I got a couple of hands that I want to talk about that I played last night. Last night was not my night. I'm going to get back on that horse, though. Probably going to play again tomorrow night. Actually, I am going to play poker again tomorrow night. Mondays and Wednesdays are actually really good nights for me to play because both my boys go to daycare on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I can play, wake up in the morning, get them to daycare, come back and take a nap if I need to, and relax. So I'm going to play. I think I'm going to play tomorrow night as well. Joella Moraswala says, how did you do at King's Casino? I did well there. Played 5-10, couple of sessions of 5-10 at King's, and then we played kind of we played a fun game with the 888 crew. Tonka and a bunch of other, like the 888 guys were there. And I did quite well there playing 5-10. Just last night just didn't work out for me. I think I made some mistakes. I didn't play great poker. And I ran bad. And then I kind of pushed the envelope a little bit in spots I probably shouldn't have. I didn't let the game come to me. And I think that's part of being successful in poker, guys, is being honest with yourself. I think a lot of times we want to blame bad luck and the fact that we're running bad. And I think we need to sometimes just look in the mirror and go, yeah, I'm running bad, but I'm also causing my bad luck. And I've said this time and time again, but I think it's true. Anyway, okay, so last night, it was we're playing a home game, and everybody's deep. The buy-in was like $300 to $1,500. And there was a lot of money on the table. The average open in a normal 5-5 game might be $20. In this game, the average open was 30, 35, or 40 even sometimes. And a lot of pots were straddled. You could straddle in any position to any amount. And then you could double straddle. Again, it's a home game. You just roll with it. Then every 4 orbits, we would do a $100 PLO flip. I lost all those too. Like I said, bad night. Anyway, it was there was a 5-10. It was 5-5 and then a $15 straddle. I decide to make it 40 to go. I probably could have even made it more than that. I make it 40 to go in kind of latest position. I think I was in the hijack. Both blinds call. The straddle folds. Okay. Pot's about $140, give or take. Okay? Flop comes out 10-8-5. Now I have 2 red jacks. I have about $1,400 behind. The guy in the small blind who called me, he's a station. He has $1,500. The guy in the big blind, he's a pro. He's probably got about $3,000. Flop comes out 10-8-5, 2 spades, and 1 heart. They both check to me. I think this is a fairly mandatory bet. Now, I do have blockers to the straight draws with the jacks, but I don't block any spade draws. My opponents are going to occasionally have 10s. My opponents have 8s, and these are all hands that I'm going to get called by. The biggest question I always ask myself when I bet, very simply, can I get worse to call me? Can I get value from worse, or can I get a better hand to fold? Well, I've got an overpair, so I'm never getting a better hand to fold on the flop. We know that for sure. Can I get value from worse? I think easily. I can get a value from a pair of 10s, a pair of 8s, a spade draw, a straight draw, all sorts of things like that. I bet $75 into a pot of about 135. Small blind, the station calls. I'm in my mind, I'm fist pumping, going, yeah, call, baby. Then the pro overcalls. And I'm thinking, okay. Now, when the pro overcalls, his range should be narrower because he's now overcalled. He decided not to raise. So you start thinking of some hands that he might have in there. You know what I mean? I don't think he has like bottom to pair very often. Does he have one pair hands a lot? Yeah. Does he have straight draws sometimes? Yes. Does he have, I don't put him on many sets personally, because I think on a wet board like that, he's probably more likely to raise. But you never know. The station could have like, king, queen. The station could have king, 5. I mean, there's so many hands. The station, he could have like 9, 6 and have like, a gutter. There's a lot of hands he could theoretically have. Anyway, checks to me. I bet 75 into 135. Both players call, right? So now the pot is, 225, 135. We're looking at a pot of somewhere in the $360 range, right? Turns an 8. It's an awful card for me. Obviously, by the way, the 10 was a spade and the 8 was a spade. So obviously this did not complete the flush draw. So now the board is 10, 8, spade, 5, 8, okay? No backdoor flush draw comes, okay? The station in the small blind checks, and the pro on his left now bets $275. Now, this is a really good bet, I think, with a lot of his hands. I don't think it's necessarily a great bet when he has a 10, but I think it's a really good bet when he has an 8, because he has to know, unless he thinks I'm a complete moron, and I don't think he thought that, I am checking back so many hands when the 8 pairs, right? Now, I don't think I necessarily always have to, because I can bet the turn and fold to a lot of check raises very easily and still get value from 10s, still get value from spades, still get value from 9, 7 and hands like that, or, what else? Even 6, 7, right? I can get value from the straight draws. Now, but I like the bet because a lot of players are checking back when the board pairs. I think it's not a bad bet with, if he had Jack 9, if he had 9, 7, if he had 8, 7, if he had a spade draw. I think he can put a lot of pressure on me and really rep the 8. And frankly, if I have a hand like Ace King, Ace Queen, Ace Jack, all these hands like that where maybe I would have put a C-bet out there, I just have to fold all those hands. So he leads out for $275. Now, I think this particular player is capable of doing this with trips. I also think he's capable of doing it with some draws. And I think it's far too exploitable for me to fold an overpair when the 8 pairs. So I call 275, even though the sizing was quite large. I call. The station in a small blind folds, and we see a river. The river is an offsuit 4. So spades do not get there. And now, after about a 10-second deliberation, the pro moves all in. The pot was about $900, give or take a little bit. I started the hand with $1,400, okay? So I have about 1,000 left, somewhere in that range. So it is about a 1.1x pot bet on the river, which is certainly, that's a very polarizing bet. But his line is already very polarizing, right? When he calls the flop, then leads out for like 75% pot on the turn, and then bets pot, or a little bit more than pot on the river, that is a very, he's not doing that with a 10, right? So, because that's one of the first questions I always ask myself is, A, is this person capable of bluffing? I think definitely he is capable of bluffing. Second question I ask myself a lot of times is he ever value owning himself? Is there a chance that he thinks his hand is the best hand here, and he's value betting a hand that's actually worse than mine? Let's say I had aces. Could he ever theoretically do this with kings? Now, I have jacks, and in this particular spot, I don't think he's ever doing this with a 10, only a 10. In fact, the worst hand I ever think he has here is trip eights. I mean, for value-wise. He could theoretically have a full house. I didn't put him on very many full houses because the small blind called on the flop, and I felt like if he had flopped 2 pair or a set on a wet board like that, I felt like he would have raised. Now, I don't know much about this particular player. It was a home game. I knew he was a pro, but I don't know, how good a pro, what kind of pro he is. I didn't have a lot of experience with him. From, the hour and a half, 2 hours that I had played with him, he seemed like a good player, but I didn't really get much of a read on his style. But on a 10-8-5, so I will default to what I think, how I think he would have played. On a 10-8-5 2-spade board, a very wet board like that, I would think that's a really good board to check raise with your made hands and some of your draws, especially when there's dead money in the middle. Now, if it was heads up, it'd be a little different. So I didn't put him on a full house, but I do put him on a lot of 8s. 8-7, 9-8, hands like that. So now I'm trying to think about, okay, what bluffs does he have in his range, right? Now, he could have 9-7, but keep in mind, the river was an offsuit 4. So 6-7 got there. 9-7 didn't get there. Jack-9 didn't get there, but I've got 2 jacks. So I've got blockers to the high straight draw that missed. So it didn't feel like he had that many bluffs. I mean, you think about it, okay, well, 8-7 got there. I'm sorry, 7-6 got there. 7-6 got there, that's a straight. Jack-9 is unlikely because I have 2 jacks. So one of the only bluffs he's going to have in his hand here is really 9-7. And since he called a raise pre-flop, I mean, he is in the big blind, but there's still one more player left to act. Actually, a few players left to act, I should say, because of the straddle. There was still a couple more players. This straddle was not in position. So I think he's kind of has like 9-7 suited only, So there just aren't that many combinations of 9. And I feel like if he had 9-7 of spades, he's probably playing that hand even more aggressively. So, when you start doing the math, I just felt like, okay, this is not a bluff. He's got a lot more 8s. The last deciding factor was this. I already told you the guy in the small blind was a station, right? And I've talked about this in videos and on podcasts previously. And I am a big believer in using the other players in the hand as a litmus test for what the pro might be doing. Because it's kind of this weird thing. Like, let's say I'm playing against you in a hand, and there's an all-in guy, and there's no side pot, and I bet the river. It's very unlikely that I'm bluffing because what's the point of me bluffing with 8 high to get you to fold when I can't beat the all-in guy, right? So the all-in player is kind of a truth litmus test where I shouldn't be bluffing very often here. I mean, unless I'm bluffing with some sort of weird ace-high hand that has showdown value against the all-in player. Now, when there is a station that's involved in the hand as well, and he has yet to fold, and the guy leads out for 275, I don't know if he's expecting that particular player to fold a 10 very often. So, if he doesn't think the station is folding very often, then how often is he bluffing? I don't want to say never. We went into this last week where, making assumptions can really get you in a lot of trouble. But at the same time, that's a factor. That's another key ingredient that I toss in the pot to try to figure out how often is this guy bluffing? Should I be calling with jacks? And at the end of the day, I just realized, I looked at it and I go, I block a few of his bluffs. Because the straddle was in mid position, I don't think he has all the 9-7s. I think he probably only has 9-7 suited and maybe 3 combinations of that. Like I said, 6-7 got there, and he's got a few 8s. Now, he doesn't have a ton of 8s, by the way, right? Because, again, he's not going to be in there with like some random king 8. But he's got 8-7 suited. He's got 9-8 suited. He's got 8-6 suited maybe. You know? Anyway, when it all came down to it, I just didn't think the guy was bluffing. I folded. I found out later, and this surprised me. I found out later because really surprising actually. He said, if I bet smaller, would you have called? And I said, no, I don't think so. I didn't think you were bluffing. What did you have? And he goes, oh, did you fold an 8? And I go, no, I'm never folding an 8 there, man. Like, he actually thought I had an 8, which made me think right away. I was like, maybe he's not that good a pro. I was like, how do I ever have an... A, how do I ever have an 8 there? And B, how would I ever fold an 8? You know what I mean? I mean, I guess we could make a question of, like, should I be folding an 8 there occasionally? But I think as played, I don't think you can... I think it's far too exploitable to fold an 8. So I told him, I said, no, I had a big overpair. What did you have? He said, I had pocket 10s. And I was like, wow. So apparently he flopped top set, which I believe him. I don't think he was lying. It surprises me that he decided not to raise that flop, but that's the one hand that makes more sense. I mean, I think I'm raising for sure with 2 pair on that flop. I think I'm probably raising with a set of 5s for sure. Set of 10s are the one hand where maybe you don't raise because you're just thinking, what can I get value from? I've got the board locked. Unless my opponent has specifically jacks, queens, kings, or aces, I'm just going to get too many folds. So he decides to slow play the 10s. But then the board pairs. He's concerned that it's going to check through, so he decides to bet it. The weird thing was, he said to me, he goes, I just thought the 8 hit you. Which is weird, because like, if you thought the 8 hit me, why wouldn't you check raise the turn? I don't know. Didn't make a ton of sense. But nonetheless. Yeah, a lot of guys saying he's trying to make it look like a bluff. Yeah, and that big, large overbet sometimes is that. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to bet so big because you'd think, why would you bet so big with the nuts? And sometimes that's exactly what it is. It is the nuts. Because there are a lot of players out there that love to play that story and play that role and make it look like it's a bluff, yeah. But at the end of the day, they just don't have the balls to put all their money in on a bluff. And that's some guys. You know what I mean? Michael Litton says, thanks, Duck. Was about to play online, but saw this notification. I've been here for an hour. What's up, Michael? Make sure you call in sometime, man. I'm here every Tuesday night. Like I said, I usually have some guests, but since I've changed it to a later starting time, I've been doing the solo a little bit more. But I've got a bunch of guests lined up. Like I said, I might just pre-record those and then have it in a show by itself. So you can look for those. The show is always available for free, by the way, on iTunes and crushlivepoker.com. Do me a favor, by the way. If you like the show, head over to iTunes and write a review. It really helps, and it's kind of cool. Even if you don't like the show, write a review. Okay? If you're completely ambivalent about the show, head over to iTunes and write a review. So anyway, that was that particular hand. I had one other hand that I didn't think it was that interesting, but we've been going on for a while, so I'm going to leave it. If anybody's going to call in, I will leave this open for a couple of seconds. If you want to get a hold of me, guys, best way to do it is on Twitter at TuckOnSports. You can always send me an email, davet@crushlivepoker.com. You can send me a direct message on Slack. I'm on Slack every once in a while. I'm going to be on it more often now. And I also check out the forums, guys. If you want to check out the forums, crushlivepoker.com. It is a really, really, really valuable resource, and you can always send me a direct message on the forums. Once again, you get 1 month free at crushlivepoker.com using the code DTA411. That is good for 2 more days. And then, starting in December, it is DTA412. Head over to iTunes, write a review for me, guys. That would really be cool. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Music. What should we leave you with? I'm kind of in, like I said, I've been watching this, I've been watching some weed, so I'm going to leave you with this fun little thing here, okay? Any of you guys remember this? Weed fans?
You're beautiful in all the things you do. and your brand is Huskaroo. Huskaroo lets you be you. Huskaroo lets you be you.
Good night, guys. I love you. I'll see you next week. Next Tuesday night, same time, same channel. We are right here.